Good morning and welcome to WHIO Reports, a community service of News Center 7. I'm Jim Otte. Glad to have you along with us this morning. Today we're talking about a new development in the Miami Valley that's been years in the making. It has a lot of potential to bring new jobs here and to boost our economy. It's the new Racino coming to Dayton. That's what they call a combination of a racetrack and a casino. In this half hour, we'll hear from the people behind the project, also from other interested parties who've been planning for this for a very long time. First, though, I want to take you out to the construction site itself. I want to play you a news story from the day back in June that they officially broke ground for this project in Dayton. Let's start here with News Center 7's Una Lee.
It's official. The Hollywood Gaming at Dayton Raceway is coming to Wagner Ford and Needmore.
We've all seen this road kind of languish, especially after Delphi pulled out and then we tore that building down. Here's an opportunity for us to have not only expansion of businesses that are already here, because they'll see new business, but I believe that there's a lot of land and opportunity here for others.
The 5/8 of a mile racetrack and gaming facility is expected to bring 1,000 construction jobs and 1,000 raceway jobs. The average salary at the Racino is expected to be $35,000 to $40,000, which includes gratuities.
Manufacturing historically, especially in Ohio, have been really good paying jobs. So do we miss those jobs in Dayton? Of course we do. But you know, every opportunity that we get to replace them with something new and vibrant, I think is a plus for us.
But with so many gambling facilities nearby, like Cincinnati, Columbus, and Monroe's horse track, we asked, will this work?
We clearly do, and you all have to recognize that Ohio is getting gaming and introducing it for the first time, and there's so much new supply coming into the market.
He notes his company believes this so much they're investing $1.2 billion in Ohio, specifically $250 million in Dayton.
$125 million goes to the state of Ohio for the VLT license and for the movement of the track from Toledo here to Dayton, plus another $125 million for this facility. We think it's going to generate a very nice return for our shareholders as well.
People who've been working on this so closely from all angles here. Bob Tenenbaum is a spokesman for Penn National Gaming, the company that will own and operate the Racino here. Shelley Dickstein is the Assistant City Manager in Dayton for Strategic Development. Scott Anderson is the Problem Gambling Coordinator at the Ohio Department of Drug and Alcohol Addiction Services. And we have an expert here as well. From the Dayton Daily News, reporter Joe Smith has been covering this very, very closely. Bob, we'll start with you. Just a quick overview here. Take a minute just about the size and scope of this project now that it's finally underway.
Well, I think you just heard some of it in the news story from the groundbreaking, but basically this is a $250 million investment. 125 million of that are fees that are being paid to the state, and 125 million that's being invested directly in the facility, which is going to sit at Wagner Ford and Needmore Roads. I think people are aware that's the site of an abandoned Delphi plant, which is ironic. The Columbus Casino, which we also own and operate, is built on the site of an abandoned Delphi plant. We're going to open with probably around 1,000 video lottery terminals. We don't call them slot machines when they're under the Lottery Commission, and actually we're not supposed to call it a casino either. So, but it's also going to be a 5/8 mile harness racing track with its own grandstand. Both facilities will have food and beverage service. We're looking at, we believe, around 1,000 construction jobs by the time this project is finished, and about 1,000 jobs that will be generated on a full-time basis once the casino, I almost said it, once the facility is open. And that's a combination of direct jobs, people who will be hired to work at Hollywood Gaming at Dayton Raceway, and jobs that are produced among companies that supply and service the facility. From
the city of Dayton's point of view, this is in the city limits. So, Shelley Dickstein, tell us your reaction at this point after how many countless hours of thinking it might happen, it could happen, it's supposed to happen, now it is happening.
Well, for the city of Dayton, it's a great opportunity. It's really kind of a triple win for us. First of all, we are fortunate enough to attract the $125 million investment of the new facility, and it's creating the jobs that Bob and the news reporter had talked about. But more importantly for us, it's taking some blighted brownfield geography off of our table and replacing it with a productive development site. And that's crucial for us because it sits in the well field over our source water protection area. And so it takes a large user that potentially could use up to 5 million pounds of hazardous materials offline and replaces it with a productive investment like Penn National is doing with the Racino.
And just as everybody else here is prepared for this, Scott Anderson from the state of Ohio, you're preparing as well. How do you do that?
Well, we've been in partnership with the Ohio Lottery for more than 10 years, and we've had 5 treatment programs, one in Cincinnati close here for all that time. We added another treatment program in Columbus when the casino locations were announced and the Columbus Casino was coming online. So this is not new to us, and in fact gambling is not new to Ohio. There's been sports and lottery and horses and raffles and bingo since the Egyptian pyramids were constructed. So the only thing new are these facilities, and we know that a slight percentage of these people will develop a problem with gambling addiction. The thing that's most interesting about gambling addiction is that or gambling in general, is it's the only mood-altering experience that you can have that has a chance to make your life look better. You wouldn't smoke crack until your life got better. But with that gambling, there's a hope, there's an opportunity that with the pull of a handle that your bills will be paid and you'll be off and running. So it does attract people looking at it as a solution too. So we pay close attention to that.
Joe Smith of the Dayton Daily News.
I would like to ask each of you, actually, preparing for the opening of the Racino takes a lot of different forms. There's the obvious construction. Besides that, how is each of your organizations gearing up for that opening in 2014?
Well, I can start. We actually announced last week the appointment of a general manager for the Dayton facility, the person who is now the assistant general manager at the Columbus Casino. There is an awful lot of work that goes on that people won't see while they're watching the construction, which they will see, obviously. For instance, our hiring process will probably begin toward the end of the year, and we'll be working with local community colleges with the city and its job creation programs. We've made commitments to the city in terms of the number of people who will be hired that will be local residents. And the fact is that the vast majority of our employees will be local residents. We're working with the minority community to ensure that minority employees and minority contractors and minority suppliers have a good opportunity to participate in this. So there's a lot of that kind of backstage work that goes on long before anybody loads the first video lottery terminal into that building.
Shelley Dickstein.
So the city is really helping coordinate. Most of the work is helping them get to a successful opening. And we're coordinating with the construction as it's going on, for instance, as they are cleaning up the brownfield site and running across certain things that they may seek variances on or may want to take an alternative approach as far as a cleanup. Sometimes they're digging deeper in some areas and less in other areas. And so our building inspection department is really working hand in hand with them on the cleanup. And then as they get closer to construction, or as they start the actual physical construction, our inspection team will be working very closely with them to make timely inspections so that they can proceed through a smooth construction schedule, helping them get to the opening, which of course would be those final inspections and occupancy permits that would be required for them to open.
Scott Anderson, how do you prepare for this?
We've been training clinicians. We have training planned for clinicians here in the Dayton area in October. We've been training for the last, this will be our 4th year, and we've run probably 600 clinicians through our trainings around the state. We have them regionally, and we try to pick locations in the state with some data involved. And Dayton obviously is a hot spot now with this racetrack coming online with the VLTs. So we'll be doing clinician training here. We've also completed a prevalence survey. We had that done prior to any of these facilities opening, and we did find that this area has a higher prevalence of problem gamblers than in some other areas, and we believe that's because of the proximity to cross-the-border gambling sites. They were here a little longer than some of the other sites adjacent to Ohio.
We're going to take a break here. When we come back, we'll hear a couple of more questions from Joe Smith and also talk about how the city of Dayton may be able to piggyback upon this great project and bring in additional jobs and development to that region. Stay with us. This is WHIO Reports. Back in a minute. Welcome back to WHIO Reports. I'm Jim Otte. On the program this morning, we're talking about the new Racino coming to the Miami Valley, just off I-75 in Dayton. Our guests are Bob Tenenbaum, a spokesman for Penn National Gaming, Dayton Assistant City Manager Shelley Dickstein, and Scott Anderson, the Problem Gambling Coordinator for the state of Ohio, the Department of Alcohol and Drug Addiction Services. Also with us from the Dayton Daily News, Joe Smith, who's been covering this event. Bob, I want to start with you this go-around talking about the status of the construction project. If people drive by, it still looks like they're kind of in a demolition, almost near construction phase.
Very close to construction, and in fact, we expect to be starting very, very soon on the foundation for the grandstand building and the site utilities. But as I think Shelley pointed out, we are still in the process of cleaning up the site and demolishing what was there, which included a pretty big factory floor that has to be literally jackhammered and removed. But we're on schedule. I think people are aware we lost about a month in a dispute with the Racing Commission over the number of seats that would wind up in the facility, but that's been settled. We're still looking at opening probably sometime in the second half of next year. We're hoping summer. So the project is coming along. I think people don't understand that it's really moving along until they start to see steel rising out of the ground. But there's a lot of work that goes on before that, and I think they'll start to see the steel coming up pretty soon, too.
Very good. Joe Smith.
The cost and the benefits for the Dayton Racino project have very different meanings for each of the organizations that you represent. I'd like each of you to address that cost versus benefit and to deal with both the monetary and the human factor.
Well, obviously we look at this as a business. Penn National is a publicly owned company, and our primary business is operating gaming and racing facilities. So our goal here is to put up the kind of facility that will attract the most people, that will provide the best experience for our customers. But we also understand the importance of this facility and all of our facilities as economic development drivers, as employers, as citizens of the community, which is also very important to us. So from our point of view, it's build the right kind of facility, do business the right way, and be as much a part of this community as we can possibly be.
Shelley Dickstein.
You know, being on a former manufacturing site, would we have rather been able to attract 10,000 manufacturing jobs there and repurpose that, former Delphi plant and be able to, employ more citizens? Absolutely. But for the city of Dayton, there aren't a lot of, it's greater benefits than there are costs. We get the jobs that are good paying jobs with good benefits. We get the brownfield site cleaned up, and we protect our source water, you know, for many years to come. So we get many more benefits than we do costs.
Scott Anderson.
Addiction carries a huge price tag. The problem gamblers, I hate to drag poor old Arch Leister through the mud again, but that was just one guy that was a gambling problem, and it was, you know, hundreds of millions of dollars and dozens of people affected. So for the small percentage of people that will be affected negatively by the gambling part of this, it can be a huge cost to the city. There's increases in divorce and foreclosure and bankruptcy and things like that associated with problem gambling, as well as any other addiction. But so that's a huge concern of ours, and that's why we're trying to get the workforce development up as fast as we can, so we can try to mitigate some of those circumstances. We also have a huge prevention effort underway, where we're going to be doing education and things in the communities on a big scale. So it's something that we've learned over the years with mental health, drug and alcohol addiction. It carries a huge price tag for those that are affected negatively in it. And a problem gambler doesn't just affect themselves; they affect a larger number of people, families, communities, employment, jobs. You know, it goes as a cost as well. So we're very concerned about the increase in gambling opportunities in the state, because that brings, you know, higher likelihood that we'll see more people in trouble.
It's an interesting coincidence that this is nationally Problem Gambling Education Week, and the operators of the casinos and the racinos understand that this is a problem for a small number of people. When the casinos were built, that constitutional amendment called for a significant input of funds to the state for not only gambling addiction, actually it can be used for any addiction services. And just as an example, we're working in Columbus this week with the Ohio Casino Control Commission and Maryhaven, which is a rather well-known addiction treatment facility in Columbus, to do an awareness program. You know, it's one of those things where you make a big deal out of it 1 week out of the year, but the industry does understand that this is a problem, and it's something that's top of mind pretty much all year round.
Shelley Dickstein, I wanted to get to what the city's plan is. Now you have the company bringing this incredible multi-million-dollar investment at one location. How do you maximize that? How do you say, okay, that's a good start. Let's start building upon that?
Well, I think that for the city of Dayton, first of all, it is the Harrison Township line is right after the plant, or right after the former Delphi site. So much of the development or infill development could possibly occur in Harrison Township. And we've had conversations with Harrison Township about making sure that, for instance, the traffic flows are good, and Penn National is actually making improvements in the intersections and things, so that it is not only easy for their customers to get to them, but it makes it easier for the existing traffic going to Cargill, for instance, and some of the other areas around. We really see first and foremost the Racino being a supplier to the base that we lost when Delphi was there. So first and foremost, it'll serve as a sustainability tool for those businesses that are already there. You know, there's a lot of food and beverage and facilities up and down Needmore Road that will reap the benefit of the Racino site.
And I hate to be known as the interrupter, but I think it's important, and it's important for people to understand that part of the success of this project is going to be a result of the incredible cooperation that we've gotten from the city, from the county, from the legislative delegation, and when we were having to battle with the Racing Commission, from the Chamber of Commerce. The welcome we've received here is really terrific, and it does help to make the entire project go much smoother.
Joe.
We've had 4 casinos, including 2 by Penn, open in the past year and a half, and by 2015 we'll also have 7 racetracks converted to Racinos. I'm wondering, for both Bob and Scott, what are your concerns about saturation?
How much is enough?
Well,
and how much is too much?
With all 11 open, there'll be over 30,000 slot-like machines or electronic gaming machines in the state. Currently, there are more slot machines in America than there are ATMs. The difference being one takes money and one gives money. So that is a huge concern. We've seen revenues I'll say, fluctuate. They're not near what we anticipated or what was projected. They're much lower, which means that our revenue is lower to treat gambling, which I guess is a double-edged argument. The surrounding states are experiencing revenue drops in the casinos in Pennsylvania, in Detroit, and Indiana. They're experiencing revenue drops as a result of us opening here in Ohio. So I think we've reached a point where it's going to be interesting to see what happens when the 7 racetracks start competing against the 4 casinos.
But that's got to be part of your plan. Bob Tenenbaum.
Well, you know, it's interesting because when the 4 casinos were approved, it was only the beginning of the talk of the 7 racetracks being permitted to have video lottery terminals. The voters made the decision on the casinos. The legislature made the decision on the racetracks. And we acknowledged at our quarterly earnings call with investors and analysts just 2 weeks ago that the casinos, our casinos, have taken off a little more slowly than we had anticipated. But I go back to the campaign in 2009, when one of the things we stressed the most was more than $1 billion a year in Ohio money was walking over the state line and going to other states. Gambling is here. We're surrounded by it. We're going to have more of it in Ohio by 2015, as Joe points out. The job now, I think, is to maximize the revenue that the state receives, whether it's through the Casino Control Commission or through the Lottery Commission.
We're going to take another break. When we return, we'll talk about that plan for the future, the timetable for this project looking forward. Stay with us. Your WHI reports. There is a hotline. I'm Jim Otte. This is WHI Reports. Bob Tenenbaum is with us from Penn National Gaming. The Assistant City Manager for the City of Dayton, Shelley Dickstein, is with us from City Hall, also from the Ohio Department of Alcohol and Drug Addiction Services, Scott Anderson. Our local expert from the Dayton Daily News, Joe Smith, is up next with that next question.
For Ms. Dickstein, I would like to know, the legislature has dictated that Penn National pay the city $1 million a year for the first 2 years of the opening of the Racino. What's the city going to use that money for?
We really haven't programmed that yet. We are certainly getting ready to go into our 2014 budget conversations, and it is something we're talking about, but we don't have anything specific yet as it relates to the use of the funding.
Is that encumbered in any way? Is there a limitation?
No, it's not.
He cuts the check. You go cash it and then decide what to do with it.
I don't cut it personally.
And I don't get to spend it personally.
That in the way. But looking forward, okay, so Bob, your timeline is you're thinking this facility will be coming online
second half of next year.
Late next year. The timing is good because now there's a lot of development money moving around in the Miami Valley. Your level of expectations are high, higher, highest. Where would you put that in terms of economic impact here?
Again, I think because of all of the benefits and the economic impact, I would put it at high. We're very pleased about the project and the benefits it's going to bring to the community.
At the same time, though, Scott Anderson, you have a hotline number. I've already heard some of the advertising here saying problem gambling, call this number. So you're going to be involved in the community here.
Very much so. The casinos and the racetracks have to include a responsible gambling message in their ads, print, media, whatever they are. Plus, we have a tremendous amount of coverage inside the casinos and the ATMs, anywhere cash is transacted. The helpline number is 1-800-589-9966. Or you can also get resources on the Ohio for Responsible Gambling website, which is www.org.ohio.gov. So you can get resources there. We've seen increases. Last July, we had 381 calls to the helpline. In June of this year, which is the last numbers I have, is 479. So the calls have increased. And we are aware that because of the tremendous amount of marketing that the casinos do, that number is far more visible. So we understand that some of that increase is due to the marketing of the gambling facilities, but we are getting an increase in calls for people looking for help as well.
And very briefly, Joe Smith, your plans for covering this issue very, very closely, I imagine, here.
I will write and follow everything that happens. Our readers want to know what's happening with this casino, and we're going to let them know.
Very good. That's all the time we have this morning. I want to thank our guests for coming in, especially in from out of town. Those who come over, thank you. And we're going to be following it here on News Center 7 very closely. Our coverage of this issue and much more continues on air at News Center 7, on WHIO Radio, plus in print at the Dayton Daily News. You can also stay in touch 24/7 through our website at WHIO-TV.com. You'll see today's top news stories, weather coverage for your neighborhood, and sports scores and updates. We're also on Facebook and Twitter to help you stay in touch with what's happening here in the Miami Valley, anywhere you go at any time. And that's our program this morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm Jim Otte. I'll see you next week. And WHIO Reports.